Thank you for joining the webinar today. We're just going to be running, we'll wait a couple of minutes and we'll just wait for a couple more attendees to join us and we'll kick off. Thank you for joining us today. We're just going to give it another 30 seconds for participants to join us and then we'll kick off the webinar. Great, I think we'll kick off if everyone's ready. So thank you very much for joining us today. Most of you probably know I'm Umesh Patel, Global Head of Partnerships and Strategic Alliances at Symphony. I'm delighted to present kind of the next webinar in our partnership series, and great to have kind of Ed Dean join us today from Woodseer. Hi, Ed.
Nice to be here, thank you.
It's the first one we've done in person since we launched this series in our beautiful new office with the sun shining in London, which, as we all know, is a rare occurrence. So yeah. It's great to have you here with us today.
It's great to be here, and I'm honoured to be the first one in your lovely new office with an amazing view. I hope they can see it behind you.
Yeah, hopefully. So Ed, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I jokingly refer to myself as a recovering entrepreneur. I've done a bunch of businesses in the past. I worked in Asia for a long time, and I came back to London, my hometown, in 2015, and was looking around for the next thing to do. And I was fortunate enough to meet my two business partners now. So we'll talk about that in a minute, but I've lived in many countries. I speak a lot of languages, and I'm pleased to be back in London. It's a great place to be.
Well travelled and well versed, I hear.
Yeah. So French, Spanish, Chinese, they're the languages I speak. Although none of them to do business in, sadly, but more than ordering a beer.
That's kind of the limit of my languages, so I completely understand. So tell us a little bit about Woodseer, kind of that whole journey and kind of what Woodseer are and what they do.
So Woodseer is a hybrid algorithm plus analyst approach to calculating dividend forecast data for over 30,000 names. We, as a business, have been running for over 10 years now. And when I came on board about 5.5 years ago, I joined the team who are a financial analyst and a techie, who've been doing it for many years, and I came on board, and together we built the Woodseer product, which has been running now for 5.5 years. And what we do is we work with a partner, EDI. We take their corporate actions data, which is a publicly listed companies all over the world, and we bring that into our system, comes into our system 4 times a day, and then we've written a proprietary algorithm which looks at that and maps forward, projecting the dividends, dates and amounts, and many other fields for over 32,000 names. And then our analysts work with it because the algorithm would never be able to do it all on its own. It's a hybrid product. It's really the best of man and machine combined.
So it's a really good example of that digitization that the industry is going through, taking something that was very manual and slow and laborious, using technology, using algorithms to then help with that automation and digitization. And which obviously instills the efficiency, the speed, and then obviously still having that safety layer of the analyst doing the checks on top.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a perfect example of a so-called disruptive startup. We started when we launched the project, we were still only about 6 people in the team, and we were able to compete head-to-head immediately with 2 very large peers. Very, very large companies, and we compete head-to-head from day one, and now in many cases we win against them.
Yeah.
all through the clever use of tech, because we did something that they hadn't done because they didn't need to. They already had their existing businesses using it, doing it the old way.
So kind of let's get into what is a dividend, just very quickly for those that don't know, and the key information that Woodseer provides in that whole process.
Well, a dividend is a payout from a company to the shareholders as a thank you for owning the share, really. And we predict that's obviously very good for a number of reasons, and we predict how much they're going to be and when they're going to be paid out going forward up to 4 years, in some cases 4 full fiscal years.
So you're using the data and the analytics that you get to forecast not just the amount, but also the date, which obviously is really important in terms of I want to have a position in something because I know that I will get that dividend rather than kind of not get that payment.
Yeah, absolutely. It is. I mean, there's a number of dates. There's the declaration date, the X date, the record date, the pay date. We predict all 4 generally. The ex-div date's the most important one, as some of the listeners will be aware. This is the date which denotes who gets the dividend, because you don't necessarily receive the dividend if you own the share on the day of the pay date. It's all related around the ex-div date.
So how is this data typically used by the industry?
So we have many clients with many different use cases. About 50% of them are pricing and trading options. And the ex-div date is particularly important for them because they don't want to be caught out on the wrong side of the expiry. The other 50% of our clients are across the board. So we have index providers using it as part of the data for calculating their indices. We have custodians and asset managers using it for income planning, seeing how much income they can expect from dividends down the track. And then obviously hedge funds, trading desks, investment management firms are using it for stock selection and stock evaluation as well.
And I guess I hadn't really thought about it until you said so, but the idea that the option includes a dividend because it's a pre-ex-dividend date obviously has much more intrinsic value than an option post that date, where it loses that out, right?
Yeah, well, it's an interesting thing because the clients who are interested, who are pricing trading options, for them, if we're slightly out on the amount, it's not such a big deal. But if we're wrong on the ex-div date and it jumps either side of the expiry, it's a binary thing, and they end up getting nothing or something.
Yeah,
so much, and as it's often leveraged up and bundled up, it's a bigger deal for them to get that right. So that's really kind of our early adopters. 5.5 years into the product, that's our core, and then we're growing the other use cases on an ongoing basis with some clients who were maybe a bit reluctant initially to work with a newer way of doing things, and now are coming on board.
And we've always had that in our industry, or in any industry really, that hesitation for new and change, right? So
yeah.
What's kind of the coverage universe that you have? So
we have forecasts for over 32,000 securities. We do equities, any publicly listed company in the world. If there's a predictive pattern to it, or there isn't, but the analysts can discern, then we'll have a forecast. We cover ADRs, and we also have bottom-up dividend forecasts, bottom-up calculated for ETFs, working with a partner. And those are the three main.
Right, and you mentioned you predict a number of years out. And what kind of timescales are those?
So we go for about 30 major indices. We go 4 full fiscal years. So that's close to 5 years in some cases. And for the whole universe as a standard, we go up to 2 full fiscal years.
Got you. Yeah, that's really powerful. And what kind of, you mentioned index providers as well. You cover kind of Japanese stocks, Korean stocks. Yeah. Just kind of give us an idea of where that kind of fits into your world as well.
In what way?
In terms of kind of the coverage that you have there.
Oh, well, the coverage, we have over 100. We have over 100 countries we cover. So, for Japan, I think it's 2,500 names that we cover. Covering means it's basically within the analyst remit to review. We have many forecasts that the algorithm has made which are not covered because no one's asked for them yet. Essentially, it's anything in a major index or in a paying client portfolio.
Got you. We talked about kind of using your data for kind of things like options pricing and ADRs. What is a DIP?
DIPs. Dividend index points. So for people who are trading the indices, they need to know what percentage of the value of the index is ascribed to the dividends that are anticipated.
Right.
So working with a partner, we feed them our dividend data on a daily, but they actually have it in their system. They blend that with their composition data for the indices and are able to work out as a percent of the whole value how much of that is related to the dividends. So it's like a bit, but it's a dip.
So you're effectively identifying the real value because you're taking the dividend component out of it.
Yes, yeah.
Well, that's really clever. And I guess that has multiples of uses because you're looking at the pure value rather than the dividend, which may or may not kind of pay depending on what date it is, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, really clever. Just kind of run through the Woodseer bot, and I know you've built a bot with us into the platform. Yeah. Just kind of run through kind of what it does and how it works.
Well, I mean, we came on Symphony, as you know, about 9 months ago, and we were playing around with it and enjoying using it. And we saw the opportunity to use it as a distribution channel, really, for free to Symphony users. And how we've set it up is it's very simple. It's a case of being able to subscribe to the bot and set up watch lists, access dividend data for particular indices, which we've set up, the FTSE 350, the Stocks Europe 600, and the S&P 500. So any name in those, any user on Symphony can, by following the bot, typing the right command, can access our most up-to-date ex-div date and amount forecast.
The two key pieces of information we mentioned earlier.
The two keys, just for the next dividend, not going further forward.
Got you. Pages speak 1,000 words. Should we jump into a demo, see what it actually looks like?
Yeah, let's do that. I will set up to share the screen if this is going to work. It did before. Let's hope it does still. Can we see this on the screen?
And how flexible is the platform in terms of adding more instruments and more information?
I mean, subject to usage and request, we can essentially feed any of our data through this. At the moment, it's set up with just these 3 major indices. They're the most popular indices that we sell the data for the constituents of. And we can add others. We're going to be able to, down the track, this is obviously all a sort of free for Symphony users. If Symphony users want to become Woodseer clients as well, we'll be able to feed certain more data through the system to them that way. Though ultimately, they might be taking it directly anyway.
So there's huge flexibility in what people can get delivered through the bots, depending upon what their preferences are.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it took the team 10 days to build. It was, or maybe less. It wasn't a hugely arduous outlay.
Yeah, our engineers and developer team have done incredible work with the bot development kit and the SDKs and the WDKs. So yeah, it's
good stuff.
Building those bots is relatively quick and simple these days.
Good. Is this showing on the screen?
It is, yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So the first thing you do basically is you go to the search and you'll search for @Woodseer, which I don't need to because I already have it, but it'll pop up there. Then here's the bot. Once you're there, just by searching it and going to it, you'll immediately register yourself for it. And then we receive, in our system, we receive the request from the user. We just can check who they are, activate it, give it to them, off we go. And then it's as simple as typing a series of commands. So the first one I'll do is @Woodseer help. And these are basically the 4 commands with Apple used as the example. So you can search on particular individual names. You can add names to a watch list, remove names to a watch list, and look up the watch list. So if we play around with that.
That help function is always really, really beneficial because it gives you clear, simple instructions and you know exactly what to ask the bot.
Yeah, so I have a preloaded watch list, which comes up, and you will see what it's showing is the company, the ticker, the status, as in there are no dividends estimated for a core at this time, the X date, and the amount. Now we can add to this. Do you want to give me a name that we can add?
So let's do Johnson & Johnson. Let's see what they're kind of next forecasting.
So it's correct. J&J added to the watch list. Okay, so now we can rerun the watch list again. Bam, there we go. So Johnson & Johnson's now been added with an ex-date of 23rd May and a dividend of 111. And then just to show how it works, and there's no limit currently on how many lookups can be done per user per day. So as long as it's within the universe, it's accessible. I know I'm looking at an individual one. There we go, 6th of May for Apple. So it's really quite straightforward.
It's very simple, really easy, and everyone can connect to it straight off the bat, I guess.
Easy peasy.
And how do you register with the bot? You said you obviously have to do the connection request and then just ping a message to the bot, and that will trigger the process to onboard users and kind of get them connected.
That's exactly right. You just go to the search box, type @Woodseer. It should pop up there for you. You search for Woodseer. As you hit enter, it'll already send the request. It's not like you even need to go and look at it and then send a request. It comes through immediately. It's also, I believe, in the marketplace down at the bottom here in the App Store.
Yes, it'll be in what we call our R2D2, which is our bot directory. So we'll get that all updated and available as well, obviously.
Yeah, good.
Fantastic. In terms of what the service is, you mentioned that it was free, that there's a number of kind of stocks and things available in there. Can you just run through what they are and the limitations on that free period?
So we're not planning on making it a paid-for service. It's something we see that we'll just keep running because it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, and it'll be useful for the Symphony users, and obviously good for helping raise awareness of the fact that we're here and that we have this data. So we're not planning on making it paid for. And as I mentioned, the coverage, the Stock 600, S&P 500, FTSE 350, that can be expanded or contracted as as demand requires.
Got you. That's really good. And in terms of, if anyone has any questions, by the way, please feel free to put them in the chat. I always forget to ask that question or tell everyone that they can do that. So please feel free to ping anything in the room. So it's basically a quick, easy access to the bot. Everyone can try it. There's no limitations around how much data they can access or frequency of data. And with the 3 indices that you mentioned, anyone can access and pull that information as and when they want to.
That's right, yeah. And we can be reached on help@woodseer.global at any time with any questions as well, or hello@ as well.
Fantastic. We have had a couple of questions come in. What are your kind of future plans and innovations for this bot and Woodseer as a platform?
So the bot, no huge plans to develop further until we see requests and we have information on the usage and how valuable people are finding it. More generally, we've been building our product now for 6 years, really, probably over 6 years by now. We're working on a new component at the moment with a machine learning element, so that not with a view to replace the existing methodology, but as a supplementary. Particularly, we're looking at outliers so that we can pull in various different sources which the algorithm isn't looking at, and look for patterns that are going to, we hope, give a prediction on when there might be a special or a cut. Because this, for our users, is the holy grail. We not always, but often get asked, can you predict specials? Can you predict cuts? We don't predict specials. They're hard to do, obviously, by their very nature, although where a special is regular enough that it's essentially special in name only and is actually regular, we are making forecasts.
Got you. We mentioned kind of Japanese and Korean stocks. You do cover those, that's one of the questions. Right. And they're typically used by indexes, right?
Exactly. That particular use case is one of our clients is one of the largest index providers in the world, based out of this city, London, and we provide them. I think for about 4 years now, we've been given our Japanese and Korean data, 1,500 Korean names, 2,500 Japanese names. My understanding is this data they can't get anywhere else. No one has forecasts running that far and wide. And they're using that in part alongside many other data sources for the calculation of their indices for those 2 markets.
Got it.
Yeah.
Another question that's come in, can you add multiple symbols at once? Or is it possible to upload a list of stocks as well?
It's a good question. It's not currently possible to add multiple at once. It's certainly something that we could, in theory, act.
Got you. Okay, fantastic. Ed, thank you very much for your time today. It's been great to kind of run through the bot. If anyone has any questions, please feel to reach out to your Symphony rep, to me, Umesh Patel on Symphony, and Ed Dean, obviously, on Symphony as well. And thank you very much for your time.
Great. Thank you, Umesh.